Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here in the newsroom. I'm Yoo Ji-hye. In the next half an hour or so, we'll be bringing you the behind-the-scenes look on how we deliver the news to you, and also hear from our reporters on some of the candid accounts of the stories they've been covering throughout this week. In the newsroom begins right now. All right, I'm sure everyone had a chance to listen in on President Lee Myung-bak's farewell speech. It was the last address to the nation. How did you guys feel?
I mean, I can't believe it was, it has been 5 years already, because I remember him becoming president, in 2008, was it? 7? I mean, 5 years went so fast.
Lots of ups and downs.
Right, a lot has happened in those years.
I mean, he was definitely one president who was very successful in winning the rights to host very global, large-scale events in Korea. So he himself said that, ever since, I stepped in, the status of Korea, the image of Korea has been upgraded, it's got a good boost, But, critics say that his government also had many, many problems in all kinds of areas.
Mixed reviews, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so
Tumultuous term.
tumultuous, and people say he didn't really communicate well with the people, although he won the presidential election with the huge support from the people. But there were many incidents that kind of disappointed the public.
It was unfortunate that some 60% of the Korean public thought, they were disappointed with how the country was run under President Lee. But some of the experts I talked to, they say Korean people can be quite harsh on the outgoing president. And he did mention at a speech that he's going to let the history judge for his administration. So, let's hope, and we'll see whether he'll get a better judgment after his retirement. So did his predecessors like Roh Moo-hyun and Kim Dae-jung, so we'll have to see. But what we are looking forward to now is, of course, the new administration, how it's going to sail through in the next 5 years. And the inauguration day is just around the corner.
Right, just next Monday. I can't believe this.
And this week, there were a lot of nominations, right?
Yeah.
Nominations and appointments.
So now it's finally done.
Yeah, completed.
Completed.
Like you said, the secretaries, the cabinet members are all, the vacant spots are filled for now. So it must have been extremely hectic at the political front. How did it go?
Yes, it's hard to keep up with everything, all the confirmation hearings that are set to be held. Just this week, as we speak, the confirmation hearing for the Prime Minister nominee, Cheong Wa Dae, is going on at the National Assembly. And just next week, starting from Tuesday, they will have a string of hearings, one after another, for all the ministers, appointees for ministries. So quite a busy week at the National Assembly, and
a lot of grilling session, I suppose. I mean,
Yes.
looking back, and of course right now as well, a lot of the nominees are always grilled over their ethical lapses. And you've done a story on that there must be something wrong with the verification system in Korea?
So this was my feature story, after seeing the confirmation hearing for Lee Dong-hup, the Constitutional Court chief nominee, who ended up dropping out of the race, actually.
The National Assembly has recently come under fire for turning confirmation hearings into a forum for exposing personal information about the nominees. President-elect Park's first choice for Constitutional Court Chief Justice withdrew himself from consideration after corruption allegations came to light during his confirmation hearing. Then the president-elect's prime minister nominee withdrew amidst allegations of real estate speculation and tax evasion, before a confirmation hearing for him could even be held. President-elect Park complained that the confirmation process focuses too much on the nominees' ethical qualifications and not enough on their ability to carry out state affairs.
So after hearing that, I was like, really? Is the system really problematic, itself. So I just took the chance to speak to the lawmakers who actually sat on the hearing for, Lee Dong-hub, and I asked a legislative researcher at the National Assembly. So you've been watching this process, very closely. So what do you think, One thing that you guys should know is that it was only in 2000 that we adopted this confirmation hearing system. So only 13 years in practice.
So before there were no screening process?
No.
Okay.
But then the system itself, experts say that it doesn't really have any shortcomings itself. They have been trying to improve the system over the years, and system-wise, they think it's very good actually. But what our system is lacking is there is no pre-screening process before they submit the bill for, okay, please confirm this person for me. So they say before the bill comes to the National Assembly, there has to be a thorough, extensive screening of the appointee at the presidential office. But experts say that with Lee Dong-hub and Kim Yeon-ji, the first prime minister nominee, that process doesn't seem to have occurred. So that's why, when the bill came to the National Assembly, they just had so many problems. They just had to focus so much on the person's ethical qualifications and just, is the person really, qualified to, take the position? They just had to spend that much time. So in 2010, President Lee Myung-bak tried to appoint someone for a key post, but 3 people failed to, pass the confirmation hearing. So they, hurriedly came up with this list that asks 200 questions in 9 different areas. So it's a very thorough list. So they say,
a lot of questions.
so they say if the person really passes this checklist, get all the check marks, then the person shouldn't have any problems at the National Assembly when he stands before the assemblyman, right?
But was it the case?
But although this list exists, it's not really, the process hasn't been institutionalized, so they didn't really use this list, although there exists the list. The President-elect Park doesn't really seem to have used the list.
From some of my readings, it seems that none of these presidents have launched their administration in time.
So one of the things that experts actually recommended is maybe we can extend the period of time that the presidential office will have to screen the nominees, and when they submit the request for confirmation hearing, on the day of receiving that request, the National Assembly needs to have the confirmation process completed within 20 days. So, okay, why don't we, extend the time to maybe up to 70 days? That's how it's being done in the U.S. And they do a very good job. The White House does a very good job of pre-screening appointees before the Senate, really holds the confirmation
hearing. How long
hearing.
does it take for them to actually screen these people?
So they said, this expert gave me an estimate. Before, it was an average of 73 days.
Okay.
So for us, it's 20 days. So very
3 times.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame that every time that we have a nominee, the person is somehow embroiled in, acid swelling due to immoral practices.
Right, some dirty laundry comes
Oh
out.
yeah, academic plagiarism,
And not about the appointee himself or herself, but his family, his sons, daughters.
Everything comes out.
And that seems to be really burdensome for not only the appointees, but also for the lawmakers who have to sit on that hearing, But because there are people's expectations, people think, okay, to assume that kind of high post, the person needs to be clean and transparent and no corruption, scandals surrounding him. So to really do what the people want, he just says it's just.
I know. I don't think there's nothing wrong with people's expectation, but considering that our presidential election takes place at the end of December or mid-December, and this new administration should begin at the end of February. That just gives too little time. So maybe we should change the election date, like the U.S. where I don't know. There must be some change. I mean, not to repeat this every 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna, pull up like a string of confirmation hearings. Now, they're running out of time.
We'll see.
very worried.
Yeah, hopefully they'll pick the right person to help President-elect govern this country, which we'll be calling president from next week.
So with so many things going on at the National Assembly, I'm actually under so much stress.
I know.
How about you guys?
Imagine.
Yeah.
Well, Yeon-ji, you should be aware that taking care of your mental health is very important.
It certainly is.
Certainly, yes.
Well, my story this week, I focused on mental health care in Korea. And as you all know, Korea has been, trying to promote mental health, especially since we do have the highest suicide rate out of all of the OECD countries.
Korea has the highest suicide rate in the OECD, and there's been a recent spate of violent crimes both in and outside of the workplace that have prompted the Korean government and the private sector to take action to tackle this serious social problem. For more on this, we have Connie Lee with us today. Hi, Connie.
Hey Sean, hey Chie. Well, good news in the mental health arena. First, the Workplace Mental Health Institute has just been established and it will start operating in March in a few weeks. Now, it is a pioneering organization with the sole mission to help employees cope with the stress that they feel at work. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to. And just yesterday, on Wednesday, the Ministry of Health and Welfare announced that starting in April, mental health therapy sessions for patients who don't require medication will be kept out of a patient's medical insurance records, unlike in the past. 제가 좀 일찍
예분이 오셨어요?
한국에서는 이렇게 우울증 걸려도 잘 본인들이 모르잖아요.
직장인들이 과거에 비해서 훨씬 안정감이 떨어집니다. 지금 우리 기업은 안정감이 떨어지죠. 내가 어떻게 될지 알 수 없는 이런 개념을 가지고 접근하게 되면 절대로 안 되는 것이고, 직장 생활이 마치 승부처럼 되어 있죠. 이런 분위기 속에서 스트레스가 많을 수밖에 없는 것이거든요. 이런 것들을 잘 관리해 주는 것이 이런 스트레스 매니지먼트, 또 좋은 부모가 되는 법 30명을 모집했는데 지금 59명이 신청을 했어요. 그래가지고 2배로 늘었어요.
네. 여기까지 하겠습니다.
네,
네, 감사합니다. 하지만 타코 Yeah, I told you it's dangerous.
시작 시간이 8시고 퇴근 시간은 5시인데 솔직히
좀 저렴한 거. 진짜 너무 많이 보낸다라는 생각 드나요?
일이 없어도 7시 정도는 돼야 이제 퇴근할 수가 있고, 정말 일 많을 때는 새벽 2시, 3시에 퇴근할 수도 있어요. 좀 큰 것 같아요. 은행에서.
뭐 보스든 이제 팀장들이 이제 퇴근 안 했으면 다 직원들이 다 있는 편이에요.
보스가 퇴근하면 퇴근하고 그런 경우가 많은 것 같아요. 나는 모르는 사람. 일 부서도 아니고.
예전이랑 지금이랑 한국 상담 받는 인식이라든지 아니면 상담 오는 사람이다라든지 이렇게 변화를 좀 설명해 주세요.
굉장히 인식이 상담 받으면 큰 문제가 있다, 정신병이다, 뭐 이런 인식이 있었어요. 많이 달라졌다고 봐요. 눈이 훨씬 더 넓어질 것 같은. 그분이 가지고 있는 문제를 도와주면서 편안하게. 초록색이 평화래요.
네, 그건 몰랐네요.
일부러 이렇게 초록색을 와서 이제 노란색이나 초록색을 보면 좀 안정감이 있어서 좀 여기 특징인 것 같아요.
Yeah, that really reminds of last year's one of my in the story about healing trend in Korea, and for that report I've talked with some psychiatrists in Korea, and he said something about why Korean people are so stressed out and why the suicide rate is so high in Korea. So you must met a lot of doctors for your report, and do they really say the Koreans' mental health is at risk?
I think overall they said that because of the stigma and because I guess the Korean just culture, like the Confucius culture, you kind of want to take care of yourself by yourself, and you don't you don't want to burden someone with your troubles or your anger. But he's saying that over the years though it's gotten better. Like before, even like therapy centers or counseling centers, they would be in like dark alleys, off of the streets, but now they're readily available like out on the big streets. And now we have young students to professors getting therapy sessions, and he noted that even at work, it's more than just the work itself that gives people stress. It's more about the relationships between coworkers or employee and their bosses that gives people the most amount of stress. And so he said the first step is just to be aware of what kind of triggers that kind of just stress in your mind, or what makes you kind of tick. And he says there's always something deeper. Yeah.
Interesting.
So how much is the session? Can I ask? I mean,
Well, it depends.
Is it affordable?
It really
Yeah,
depends.
it's
Yeah,
very
and so
expensive.
right. So another drawback for people not going to therapy session is the cost. But in the end, what's more important? Your health, right? So so there's actually a brand new institution in Korea called the Workplace Mental Health Institute, where they're solely promoting mental health awareness, and they're solely doing research and consulting for employees. And so in Seoul, yeah. And so it's the first time ever. It's a pioneering organization, obviously, and so they are wanting to partner with different corporations, or large conglomerates. And so when these companies partner with this institution will, hand out surveys to its employees and offer different programs that match the employees' needs, like what kind of, consulting or counseling that they need. And so I think this is a great initiative, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope maybe in the near future, more Koreans will be, more comfortable about going, these counselors.
Yeah.
Right, so at the end of the stressful week, most of us head to the theaters. And Ji-woon, is there any films that you'd like to recommend?
Right, we have very interesting film in store that will be released today, actually, this Thursday. And this film is directed by very acclaimed Korean director Kim Jee-woon. Kim Jee-woon. He has been in the industry more than about 15 years, and he is so popular, and he has, received awards from in and outside of Korea. So he got this love call from Hollywood to come and direct films. And now this is The Last Stand, starring
Hollywood star, right?
Hollywood star, and we all know who that is.
The big man.
Right, politician turned actor again. This Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes, the hero of this movie. And this film is actually very interesting. Has very interesting plot because it the story itself matches with Arnold's life. The story is about a retired hero of LAPD becomes a small town sheriff. But he becomes hero again. So, and
happy ending.
Yeah.
So were you able to meet the Schwarzenegger?
Oh yes, I've met him.
Oh yes.
저희 아리랑 TV요. 어디서 대기하면 될까요? 그럼 저기 있는 프레스센터처럼 저기서 뭐 대기하거나 이런 건 안 돼요?
그냥 이따가 한꺼번에 모여가 돼요.
카메라 뭐 저희 이렇게 설치하는 이런 거는 순서나 이런 거는 아직 안 정해졌고요.
네네네.
그럼 한번 저희 그럼 좀 여기서 기다려도 되고 저렇게 차에서 기다려도 될 것 같은데. 아놀드는 6시 17분에 출발했대. 공항에서.
공항에서?
네.
Always as an actor, try to choose a project.
Potential, I think it's a major player on the world stage economically.
It was, interesting to listen to this once one of the biggest Hollywood stars starring in Korean director's film.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of surreal. I mean that really shows. And these actors all say they are a huge fan of Korean directors. They've seen the movies, and as you all know, then this film is not the only one. Within this year, later this year, there will be 2 more films that's all made in English and starring all these, big names of Hollywood, and they are directed by Korea's very famous directors, Park Chan-wook, The Stalker, and Bong Joon-ho, Snowpiercer. And these 2 movies will be very interesting as well.
Yeah, not only the directors, but also the actors are making inroads to Hollywood, and which shows, it shows how like Korean talents and films are being well received by not only here in Korea but around the world.
So it was interesting to hear
For their success.
this, huge actor says, "Oh, one of the big reasons that I've decided to do this movie is." Director Kim Jee-woon likes this movie, and it was so, as a Korean, very happy to hear that. And I hope that our Korean movies become more creative, so that we can draw more of these love calls from Hollywood.
Nice.
Lovely.
Let's go watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we
Last
should-
Stand.
Oh,
The
the
Last
last
Stand.
stand. All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our chit chat session.
Yeah, the next time we see each other will be with the new president.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
We're going to call the
That'll be
president talk from now. Okay, lots to look forward to. Guys, thank you very much for another great week. I'll see you guys back here next week.
See you.
Yes.
See ya.
Bye.
뭐 29살 뭐 누구나 만나고 아 너무 좋았고
네.
그리고 저 안에서 뭐 했던 거는 이거 하나 드릴까요?